Hello everybody, Elias5891 is off at the toy store today, so filling in it's Timwe with another KTANE module tutorial. Today we'll go over the Lego module, which is this here. Now I'm going to begin by showing you how the module itself works. I'm going to pretend that the diffuser and the expert are the same person, and then after that I'm going to explain to you one way that I would personally communicate between the diffuser and expert. But first, let's see how this works. First of all, we have these left and right arrows here that allow us to move between various pages. The first page says parts. We don't need that. We can ignore that. Then there are several pages where you have one Lego piece that is stationary and another one that is flashing or blinking. Then there may be like 5 or more of those pages. And then finally we have a build page where we can sort of put Lego bricks ourselves, and then there is a submit button, which obviously at this point would give us a strike because this is wrong. So let's take this out again. And let's take a look at each of these pages. Now, the flashing one, in this case the yellow one, is on top of the other one. So let's put that in. I have a little Lego program here. So I can start with the red brick, which is a 1x3, like this one here. It's upright, like this. And I'm going to put the yellow one on top of it. There we go. This is the position it's in. Second page. Now this one shows you that the yellow one is also on top of a green one, which means that the green one is underneath the yellow. So let's put the green, which is a 4x1, underneath the yellow. Now it says here that the yellow and the green overlap at only one point, so that is what I'm doing. Next page. Now we have a cyan piece on top of the green. So let's pick a cyan piece, like this one here, and let's put it in the right place. It is 3 spaces in, and then pointing down, so this is the orientation it's in. On the 4th page we have a dark blue piece on the left of the green one, like this. There we go. And finally on this page we have the cyan one, which we've already placed, and we have a pink one which is underneath it. So we have to place the pink one underneath, which means that I have to move everything up a little because I don't have enough space otherwise. There we go. And now let's move the pink piece, which is a 2x3, here. This is wrong. It's oriented like this. It overlaps the cyan with on two squares, so this is the correct orientation. Okay, now let's take a look at the manual. We have a table here which tells us 2 things. First of all, we need to look at the construction that we've just made, either from the top or the bottom. Let's find out which it is. At least 3 pieces are 3x2. No, there was only one 3x2, so that's a no. The yellow piece is 3x1, that is the case. The orientation of the yellow piece doesn't matter, so 3x1 and 1x3 is the same thing. So we need to look at this construction from the bottom, like this. However, we also need to orient it. So let's see, is the green and magenta piece the same size? No, they're not. Magenta is 3x2 and green is 4x1. The structure is at least 4 bricks tall. Let's take a look. No, it's only 2 bricks tall. So that's a no. The blue piece is above the red piece. Well, the blue piece is on a higher level than the red piece. That counts, so that's a yes. So we're looking at east. Now, this white area here is where north is. All of these manual pages on the module are oriented in such a way that north is up. So we want to orient it in such a way that east points up. So if this is north, okay, so if this is north, then east is here on this side. So we want that to point up, so we orient it this way. And now you will notice that some of the pieces that we've placed are completely covered. We can only see the magenta, green, red, and blue from here, but not, for example, the yellow and the cyan. But that's okay, because that's all we need. So let's put the answer in. Now we can actually put the answer anywhere as long as it's all contiguous in the correct orientation relative to each other. So I'm going to put this up here, and it will become clear later why I'm putting it up there. Let's put the blue there, and let's put the red here. 1, 2, 3, submit. That was correct. Let's do another one. This module also has 5 pages. So let's start on page 1. We have a 3x1 pink. That would be this one. We have a 2x3 cyan. And it is oriented vertically, and it meets the pink one at only 1 square. So we want to put it here. That looks correct. Next page, we have a 4x1 green piece, which sits on top of the cyan piece like this. Then we have, okay, this is a bit confusing, but what's happening here is that the red piece is underneath and the cyan piece is on top. So now we need to put the red piece underneath the cyan. So let's put that here for now. Let's rotate the view, and let's put the red piece here. It is now underneath the cyan, completely covered by the cyan if we look from the top, but not from the bottom. Next page. Now we have a 4x2 yellow on top of the pink that we've already placed. The yellow will go here. There we go. On the next page, again, the yellow one we've already placed, so we have to put the blue one underneath it. We have a 3x1 blue, this one here, and it overlaps the yellow on 2 squares. So let's move that. Let's rotate this around so I can put it here. That is wrong. There we go. And this is where the blue one sticks out of the yellow. So, now let's look at the rules in the manual. At least 3 pieces are 3x2. No, we only had a cyan 3x2. Everything else was either 2x4 or 4x1, 2x2, so no. The yellow piece is 3x1. No, it's not. It's 4x2. At least 7 instruction pages are present. No, we had only 5. So we're looking from the bottom. The green and magenta pieces are the same size. Well, the magenta one is 3x1, the green one is 4x1, so that's a no. The structure is at least 4 bricks tall. No, it's only 3 bricks tall. The blue piece is above the red piece. It is not, it's on the same level. They're both on the bottom. So we want south, which means this orientation is correct, where the north part is on the bottom. So let's enter this solution. We have blue here, we have yellow here, and we have magenta. We have a little bit of cyan, a big block of red, and sticking out on the left, a bit of green. And it's a solved module. Okay, now how would you communicate this information to the expert when you're the diffuser? The following is a recommendation of my own. This is how I would personally do it and how I would ask diffusers to do it. You don't have to do it this way. So let's take a look. Okay. On our first page, there are 3 pieces of information that we need to communicate. So the first one is, there is a magenta piece, which is of size 2x4. There is a green piece that is of size 3x1. And now we also need to communicate where the green piece is relative to the magenta piece. What I like to do is look at the top left corner. The top left corner of the magenta piece is here. The top left corner of the green piece is here. So to go from here to here, you would go 1 left and 2 down. 1 left and 2 down. Let's write this information for every page. So here we have a yellow that is 1 by 3, a green that is 3 by 1. And by the way, I'm always reading out the stationary one first and then the flashing one, which is supposed to be on top of it. And this time the offset is 0. They are in the top left corner of each piece is in the same place. Page 3, we have magenta 2 by 4. We have blue 3 by 1. And we have 2 left, 3 down. So going from here, we go 2 left, 1, 2, 3 down to get to the top left corner of the other piece. Here we have a yellow 1 by 3, a blue 3 by 1. And to go from the yellow to the blue, we go 1 left, 1 down. Finally, on the 5th page, we have a yellow 1 by 3, a cyan 2 by 2, and we only have to go 2 down. Okay. There is a 6th page, which has a green 3 by 1, a red 4 by 1, and the top left corner of the green is here. So we have to go 1, 2, 3 left to get to the top left corner of the red piece. And now we have read out all of the information. Now, what do we do? I like to solve this by using a text editor such as this one, which allows me to orient things in sort of two-dimensional space because it's a monospace font, so every character has the same width, so you can align them on top of each other as well as next to each other. So if I were to start at the beginning, like here, we have a 2 by 4 magenta piece. In fact, let me mark it with M's. So that's magenta. And then as I go 1 left and 2 down, I would be here. And now if I were to put the green piece on top of it, it would look like this. But we don't yet know whether we need to look at it from the top or from the bottom. If we need to look at it from the bottom, then of course the magenta piece is going to overlap the green piece. So let's take a quick look at the manual. At least 3 pieces are 3 by 2. Actually, none of them are. So no, the yellow piece is 3 by 1. That's a yes, because again, 3 by 1 and 1 by 3 is the same thing. In this case, it matters that the diffuser says 1 by 3 in order to communicate that the piece is oriented vertically towards the north, but the size is still 3 by 1. So we're looking at it from the bottom, which means that we want the magenta to be visible, and the green, which is on top of it, is not visible because the magenta below it covers it. We will get to the orientation later, and I will explain in a second why. So we've placed the green one. Then we have a yellow one, which is on top of the green one. Now the green one, this requires a little bit of memory. We know that the green one was here. Now at this point you can still deduce that because you know that the green is 3 by 1. So if this is the only visible piece of the green, it must reach over to here. So the yellow 1 by 3 is basically here. This is the location of the yellow. Now the yellow is underneath the green, which means that now the yellow will completely overlap the green. You cannot see the green anymore. So to remember that the green was still here, what I like to do is I quickly take care of all the other ones that deal with the green, and then I can forget about the green. You see, the order of these pages doesn't actually matter. So I will move this up, and then once I've dealt with this, I don't need to worry about the green. So we know that the green is here, and the red is actually on top of it. And going 3 left from it, 1, 2, 3, we would start here, and it's a 4 by 1, which means that 3 red squares actually stick out from on top of the green. Next, we have the magenta that we're already familiar with, the one that is at the bottom of the structure. There is a blue on top of it. That is 2 left and 1, 2, 3 down. Now at this point you need to be careful, because the blue one could be like this, it could be underneath the yellow, Or it could be on top of the yellow, in which case only this square would be blue. To find out which one it is, let's take a look at where the yellow is relative to the magenta. Well, we can see here that the magenta is underneath the green and the yellow is underneath the green, which means that the magenta and the yellow are on the same level. They're right next to each other. So therefore, the blue, if the blue is on top of the magenta, then it is also on top of the yellow. Now in this case, there is actually another page that explicitly tells us this, that the blue is actually on top of the yellow. In fact, it turns out that this information is redundant, because once we've placed the blue, then this information we've already taken care of. But it's a good way to check that you've done everything correctly. So we have our yellow here, and then one left, one down from the top left corner of that, we land here, and we want the blue to be on top of it. And since we're looking from the bottom, therefore we see the yellow. So this is correct. Finally, we need to place the cyan, which is only mentioned on this page. So we have our yellow. We need to go 2 down from the yellow and then place a 2x2 cyan here, but the cyan is on top of it, so the yellow remains visible from the bottom. Now, there are 2 things to note. The first one is the orientation. Let's take a look at that. The green and magenta pieces are the same size. Well, green is 3x1, magenta is 2x4, so no. But, again, if one of them were 3x1 and one of them were 1x3, it would count as the same size. The structure is at least 4 bricks tall. Well, it's a little difficult in this structure to see whether it is, how tall it is. But here's a way to figure this out. We know from this information here that the green is on top of the magenta. So you can write that like this. And then this tells you that the yellow is underneath the green, so the yellow is on the same level as the magenta. And then this tells you that the red is on top of the green, so that gives us at least a 3rd level. Now, the blue is on the 2nd level because it is on top of the magenta, so blue is here. We already know that yellow is underneath blue, and finally cyan is on top of yellow, so cyan is also on the 2nd level. So the structure is only 3 bricks tall. This here is the bottom of the structure, and this is the top. The blue piece is above the red piece. Well, again, in this representation, we can see that the red is actually above the blue piece, so that's a no. And now we can delete this information again. So we want south, which means that we actually want this structure to be upside down. So if I were looking at it from the top, so if the answer here had been top instead, then I would simply read it out in backwards reading order to the diffuser, and I would say blank, cyan, cyan, next line, blank, cyan, yellow, next line, magenta, magenta, yellow, blue. However, we are looking at it from the bottom. Now let's take another look at this here. So if we have a piece here, for example, now this piece is near the north border, and we have another piece here, and this is near the west border. If we look at this from the top, then of course north is up and west is left. If we turn this around, then north becomes flipped, north and south become flipped, and west and east also become flipped. But if we look at it from the bottom, you will now notice that the piece that is on the west side is still on the left, but the piece that was on the north side is now on the bottom. Similarly, if north is actually up, like this, so now north and south are the same, but west and east are swapped. So my recommendation is to do the orientation first, which means to put south on the top, and then swap west and east. So in our case, that would be a horizontal mirroring. So instead of reading it from right to left, which is what reverse reading order would be, I would read it from left to right, but still from bottom to top. So here we go. At this point, we can remove extraneous spaces here so that it is as far left as possible, and we start reading here. Diffuser, please put in blank, 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 cyan, cyan. Blank, 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 cyan, cyan. blank 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 yellow cyan, blank 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 yellow cyan, and then we have blank blank blue yellow magenta magenta, blue yellow magenta magenta. Then we have red 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 yellow magenta, red 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 yellow magenta magenta, and then 4 blanks magenta magenta, 4 blanks magenta magenta, and then submit. Now let's take a look at what happens when you make a mistake and you get a strike. So let's say I have this, let's say I just make some random nonsense here. If we go back here, the pages haven't changed. So the information is still the same, the solution is still the same. All you have to do is fix it, which may be difficult because you need to find your mistake, and if your mistake is a far-reaching mistake, you may have to do all of it again. I will now blank the screen and read out a module to you in the fashion that I recommended. Here we go. On the first page, we have red 3x2, cyan 2x2, 1 down. Second page, cyan 2x2, magenta 2x3, 0. Page 3, green 3x2, cyan 2x2, 2 right, 1 up. Page 4, red 3x2, yellow 4x1, 1 left. And page 5, green 3x2, blue 3x1, 1 left. That's it. There are only 5 pages. Let's see what you can come up with. Solution in 3, 2, 1. Okay, you see on the left here the information that I gave out. And you see here on the right what your structure should look like. In this case, there are in fact 3 pieces that are 3x2. We have a red piece, a green piece, and a magenta piece. Remember that 2x3 is the same as 3x2. So this time we're looking at the structure from the top. And as for the orientation, well, the green and the magenta pieces are in fact the same size. Magenta is 2x3 and green is 3x2, which is the same. So the orientation is west, which means that we need the west side to point up. So we need to rotate it this way. So let's put that answer in. Again, as the expert, you can remove all the blank spaces from the left so that you don't have to say blank quite as often. So you would just say blank blue, and the diffuser would put that here. Then you have green blue, so blue, green. Then you have another green blue, blank yellow. Next line, 3 magenta and a yellow. Blank, next line, 3 magenta and a yellow. Next line, blank blank red yellow. And correct. If you got the solution, congratulations. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, or suggestions, please leave them in the comments below or contact me on Discord, whichever you prefer. In the meantime, happy diffusing, and don't step on Lego pieces, and don't explode. Goodbye.